What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades that we took today as well as the game plan going into tomorrow. So this is what we looked like today off of open. So if we pull up the 30-minute on the 650 calls, this is what we were watching throughout the week. 30-minute time frame tells us the trend. And I told you guys yesterday, we were neutral yesterday because this 10 SMA here was below this 50 SMA. So when that happens, market's neutral, and then we end up getting a closure right around this 50 SMA. 50 SMA was pretty flat, so it wasn't that strong of a resistance point. As you guys know, like the more slope down the 50 is, the harder of a resistance it is to get over. So since this was flat and even like sloped up a little bit, there really wasn't much of a resistance to break, and that's why we broke above it today pretty easily, and we saw it move higher today. It was pretty simple. So this is a very, very clean chart. So the 10 SMA crossed the 50, and when that happened, that marked the market was bullish. So at that point, 10 SMA is going above the 50. We're bullish, and we're only focused on longs. And there is only one setup that I was looking for when we get this type of cross. So to get an entry point, again, we go to the 0-day charts, the 0DTs, and you go on the 5-minute, and we had the 646 calls today because we ended up opening around 645, so that rounds to 645. Then you add one for the 646 calls, and then minus one for the puts, which is the 644 puts. But there was no cross in the puts today. I did end up taking this cross right in here, so right in this area, we ended up getting a nice clean cross. I honestly wasn't expecting that great of a move just because of how this looked. It just looked a little funky. So this 10 SMA, as you can see, if we look here, what time was this at? If we look here, the market was, this chart was already crossed. So right off of open, we ended up getting this dip to the 50. You don't buy this dip because the market wasn't bullish at the time of this dip. It took a little bit for the SMAs to cross on the 30-minute, which ended up happening in the afternoon. It was literally right in this area. So actually, no, we're not right in this area. I think it was like down in this area is when that 30-minute chart ended up actually crossing. But we ended up getting back up with a 10 SMA. Once that 10 SMA does like level out, that's kind of when you can take that entry point. So you would have entered pretty much on this candle closure right here if you wanted to take the reclaim, and you would have got a nice move out of it. Really nice reclaim. Obviously, it's not the most ideal trade yet, just because that 30-minute chart didn't cross. So okay, if that's not a trade you want to take, that's completely fine. Next trade opportunity is to wait for the market to flip bullish and then the calls to cross. So this dip down here, I'm not buying because that 30-minute chart hasn't crossed yet, so the market is still neutral. And then once we got this cross up in here, that 30-minute chart finally ended up catching up and crossing. So I took this entry right on this candle right here at 1320 or at 125. I think I actually got in at 120. Might have been 125. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's pretty much the same entry either way. We went long on NQ at this cross right here. Stop loss, closure below the 50. The risk on this was super tight because you guys can see we're pretty much right at that 50 SMA, so really light risk on this trade. And look at the move we got. Very nice cross. These contracts went 142 all the way up to 195. I think I was up like 55 points or 53 points at the peak, and then once we started to pull back a little bit, I just got out. I think I closed it on this candle right here. I'm like, okay, at this point, we're probably going to end up just dropping. It was just kind of stalling. So I just cut the rest of the position, but I trimmed pretty much my majority of the position on the 50-point move that we got. So I think I had probably like 25% of my position left and ended up closing that, I think, around like 36 points in profit. So it's a really good trade. That's the only thing we needed today. It was very, very simple. Again, that's why I love the system. I haven't traded futures in a pretty long time, but we finally saw like an A+ setup and we took it and got paid. 30-minute trend is in our direction, and when that happens, when the 30-minute is trending on the call side, 10 SMA is about the 50, and we get that call cross on the 0-day chart, that's the setup you want to take. Those are the really good setups because we know the bulls have the trend and the calls are now taking the intraday trend. So that is that's a really good trade to take. So we ended up catching that in the Discord. We finally, that was the first futures trade that I actually called out in the Discord because I did start my own, like I said a couple videos ago. But yeah, we finally caught a really good trade, and that's all that I did today. It was very simple. Actually, no, my bad. We actually took an options trade too, but that's what we did on SPY when it comes to futures, because I trade futures off these charts. You can trade options, you can trade futures, doesn't really matter, whatever you prefer. I just prefer trading NQ. A lot of people ask, like, oh, why do you trade NQ when you're watching the SPY charts? It's just that NQ is my preferred pair, and also the SPY chart is more you know, the SPY chart itself is a lot more reliable than the QQQ chart. So SPY is the main one that I watch. Like sometimes you get more false crosses with QQQs from what I've seen. So that's why our main priority is the SPY chart. And you could trade ES or NQ off of that. But I took Apple today. This is a break-even trade. I mean, this thing just did not move. I mean, this thing was barely moving. If we look up in here, I ended up selling this for like break-even. We got this little cross here off of open. I entered somewhere in here. I swear, there was no way I was up on this position. I was down on this position, bro. Oh, okay. This is the 19th. So that's why. If we flip to the weeklies, okay, yeah, this is why. I mean, this is very simple. I mean, I ended up getting in on this candle, I think, or no, this candle, 10 o'clock possibly. I'm gonna look in the Discord when I actually called this out, but you know, this was a break-even trade. I mean, I entered this at 10:09, and at 3:24 I was break-even. So at that point, I mean, like, it just wasn't worth holding because we had Nvidia earnings after hours. I just didn't feel like swinging it into that, you know, unknown event of who knows how that's gonna affect Apple, depending on what they report. So I just cut it. I mean, it's just still a good-looking setup. 10 SMA is above the 50, 30 minutes cross. We are at that 1 hour 50, which I really wouldn't be too concerned about. But the main, like, kind of, you know, confluence here is the monthly chart. 30 minute, like I said, is crossed. And when we look at the daily chart, that 10 estimate is down pretty aggressively. But, you know, I would love to see a closure above the 10 and Apple rip higher. That's kind of what, you know, made the setup really good, is because we bounced off the monthly 50 SMA, which is very, very key pivot. And then that 30-minute weekly trend ended up crossing. So that is why I took the trade. Break even is what it is. Don't really care about that. But yeah, that's what we did today. I ended up closing actually PDD for a loss today. I ended up swinging this overnight. Didn't end up panning out at all. I bought this 10 SMA dip. I'm going to pull it up really quickly. But yeah, I just didn't end up playing out. A lot of the individual stocks recently just haven't been playing in my favor. I'm definitely going to be more selective going into them. Like Apple was a good setup that I was that I was willing to take, and it just didn't end up playing out. But we'll look at PDD here. 130 calls for the monthlies. We were pretty much just buying this monthly, this 50 dip right here, which obviously didn't end up working out, so ended up stopping out on that. Just unfortunate. I mean, I did like the chart. They did report bad earnings, so maybe that had an effect to the move down. But you know, this monthly chart, it looked solid, so I bought this support down here, and it just didn't pan out. So you know, losers are going to happen. We're going to have good days ahead. At least we made up for it with NQ. NQ, absolutely fire trade, so can't really complain with how the day went. But that's pretty much what we did. I mean, going into tomorrow, it's a pretty simple game plan. We look here at the 30-minute on SPY, and again, as long as this 30-minute chart is crossed, then the 50 estimate's got to be sloped up tomorrow. Though, like I do not like how this is curled down. But again, if this chart, you know, fixes itself up and, you know, the 50 points up and market's bullish, focuses on the long side, and we're looking for a call across and then a 50 dip on the calls. And pretty much what I mean by that, if you guys don't know already, if we pull up this 5-minute, the 50 dip would be pretty much this blue line right here. When we pull back to it after we cross, you buy the dip. And like I said, market wasn't bullish at this time, so this was not a dip I was taking. But again, you know, we pull back to this 50 right here, you buy the dips after we cross. Again, this is such a weird chart of how like sloped up this 50 was, but again, just for example, pull back to the 50, you buy the 50 dip. Again, like this time frame though, at like 3:15, I am not buying any 50 dips. It's way too late in the day. Theta's gonna be messing with the contracts. Like after 3 o'clock, I'm usually not trading. You know, like max I'll take it to is like 3:15, I'd say 3:20. But at that point, not even worth taking a trade after we catch, you know, this cross. You know, you don't want to be playing the crosses that occur in the last like 30-40 minutes, or the 50 dips that occur in the last 30-40 minutes. So that's just a little tip when it comes to the system. But you know, it was a really good cross that happened today. But yeah, that's pretty much what we did today. Like I said, for tomorrow, you know, if we are bullish, focus on the calls. If market dumps overnight and the 30-minute cross is negative on the calls, then most likely we'll see a move lower, and at that point we will end up probably playing a put cross. So negative cross just simply means this 10 SMA crosses below the 50, and that means the bulls lose the trend, and that gives us a move on the opposite side of the premium, which would be the put side. So like I said, at that point, you look for the put cross. So that's the game plan going into tomorrow. If you guys enjoy, drop a sub. If you guys want to learn, join Discord down below. But yeah, that's all I got. I'm out. Peace.